feel like, yeah,
That's for one round, right?
Okay, first, intercessors.
Sound good?
Lightning cloud.
Wait, before we get the
Two
contrast.
wounds and -2.
Okay. Let's go with the system there.
Wait, man. I'm about to go live, John.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, the contrast looks good. Ready?
30.
Can we win?
But it's stupid, right? So for every 5 guys, someone can
You can take one, yeah.
Sure. Take 2.
We are live on Facebook.
Awesome. Hey guys, how's everyone doing?
That way, just in case you only take 5 minutes.
Sorry for the late start. We just got distracted with some technical issues.
4 wins.
But yeah, thanks for joining me today. I am working on a couple of different things, and I'm trying to go over edge highlighting today. So I've picked the Deathwatch models that I've been commissioned to do, plus some gators to go over that edge highlighting. I'm just currently blocking in what I want to be white on these models before I get back to edge highlighting for the stream. The reason why I chose these models in particular is edge highlighting is a good way to paint a black model or like a super dark tone model easily without like losing the dark tone to doing too many highlights. I have a tendency when I'm doing like a dark color scheme to highlight the model up pretty starkly, but you do lose that tone really quick by doing that. So applying a mostly like black to dark gray across these models and then just coming in and picking up the edges on these things will give you the definition you want while not losing the actual like color scheme to it. So with the whites blocked in, I'm going to go back to my edge highlighting. I'm going to start with this guy because the other ones I've already kind of worked on a little bit off camera. But when you're edge highlighting, you're going to want to make sure that you have a little paint on the brush and you have a mostly narrow brush like this. And when you come in, you're going to have the brush at like a 45-degree angle to the sharp edge, and slowly and gently, you don't need to put too much pressure on there, drag across there, and it'll really make that line pop. So I've chosen the Slaneshi gray, I think it is. Oh, Warp Fiend gray, excuse me, for my edge highlight color. It's this light purplish gray. I like it because it adds a little bit of cool tones to the model and all that, while being contrast enough to the dark tones to make everything kind of pop out. So I'm just going to go. And another important thing, especially while you're edge highlighting, is you don't need to cover every single edge on the model because that will be too distracting and it doesn't look super believable to the eye. So you want to catch the major details to bring them out and forward to your viewer. So this is a jetpack infantry, so we definitely want to make sure that a lot of the lines on the jetpack are distinct and visible right off the get-go.
No, the only people who get to move at this point are
And we'll keep going through it, making sure all these nice lines get brought out and seen. In choosing an edge highlight color can be as easy or as difficult as you want to make it be. Most of the time, as long as it's lighter than the base tone, you're good to go. But using color theory, you can kind of create different effects with it. I just like this purple because it's a little bit of color on a mostly monochromatic model, and it's not your standard gray.
They have to move now closer.
In order to beat back, you have to have a model to push back.
So yeah,
So I think you needed.
Edge highlighting is a
Yeah, the other
patient
guys
process.
were hating on my bed to move.
You just need to
Actually, two
One
more
guy
hits.
who's
set the time aside to go and do it.
But I see where you're going with it. It's a good plan.
There's
It's a good plan, 'cause you get the angle right, and you're trying to travel that direction. It's a good plan.
there's no real like quick and easy way to do it that won't look overly quick like you did the easy route on your model. So it's just patience and focus while doing it. So, but yeah, while I'm working on these guys, I am here to answer any questions that you guys have, or if you guys want to talk about anything, experiences in games, events that you're excited for. I know Gen Con's going on this weekend, so we have a lot of people out of town for that. And it's nice kind of seeing a bunch of people hanging out together.
Inverter, get in charge.
probably not a good idea.
Yeah. So the angle to go.
So yeah, as I generally say in most of my things, don't worry too much about mistakes. You have all the resources available to you to go back and fix tiny mistakes. So just be careful, take it slow. One of those things, realizing that I have the ability to come back and fix a mistake later, gets me to speed up, and it doesn't necessarily hurt my accuracy in a model. So it's something I tell myself a lot, just to keep going and keep going quick, especially on these commissions that someone's waiting very patiently for. So yeah, one of my favorite things that I've heard about Gen Con this weekend is the World of Tanks getting a 40K expansion. I think that's pretty neat. So for the edge highlights, it's really the effect that you want to do. You can go, I would never really recommend going like white on black. That's just too much. I usually like trying to figure out a shade that's a couple shades higher, just simply because I want to make sure that someone's able to see what I'm doing. Because if you do it too subtly, it'll only be really visible if someone holds the model up to their eye. So, yeah. Just coming in, picking up lines that the viewer will definitely want to see. So, backs of the knees, but by the heels, all that sort of nice stuff.
And then I'll shoot you.
Hey Nick.
You can do it. Kill him.
So yeah, as you're working, you're just doing light, simple strokes. If you press too hard down, your line will be very inconsistent. So you definitely want to be mindful of that.
No, it's once per round. Oh, per round. Okay.
Yeah, speaking of the YouTube thing, someone was actually asking if there's a backlog of videos on YouTube, and I believe we've started doing that. So if you guys don't catch this live, you want to watch this and a couple more, you can just log on to YouTube and go from there. So yeah, it's been a pretty exciting day at the store so far. I've been keeping up on all the Gen Con news and all that, and then we have a lot of people in for Journeyman League tonight. We have our first game going on of the evening.
I don't like it.
So yeah, this guy's a Raven Guard, so he has even more dark tones on him than a lot of the other guys. for Death Watch. So his paint scheme's pretty much just white and black. So I have to find ways of kind of popping in more color for him. I've blocked in all the white with the blue, so the white will have a little bit of blue, and these edge highlights will have that bit of purple to it. And I've been using a deep magenta for a lot of the weapons for these guys, so I'll probably try to incorporate that somewhere on him.
To be honest, I'm having fun building.
Oh, I think I walked off camera a little bit. But yeah, if you guys see me meander off or do anything like that, feel free to yell at me through Facebook or any other places that we're live with. I'll do what I can to manage it. So Games Workshop makes a really good series of edge paints, and they come in all varieties of colors. We have them here at the store. I definitely recommend checking them out, just simply because it's one of the few technical paints that they carry that's really good and formulated well for the job. Because edge paints, you don't want to be super thick, nor do you want them thin like a glaze. Because if you thin it like a glaze, it'll just kind of... It'll do this like weird effect where it won't quite cover the edge, but it'll do everything around it. The edge highlight is warp free and gray. I like doing that over the blacks. I said earlier on the stream, but I just enjoy having a bit of color to my grays. I think that it really adds a lot to it. Oh my god, is that Will Baker? I haven't talked to that guy in forever. Oh, good. Oh god, wait.
Yeah, let me back.
Cool. Yeah, sorry about the camera angles, guys. I'm in the process of trying to figure out where it's at. But yeah. Hopefully everyone else is working on something cool this weekend. Or this week, I guess. So the face, the helmet, I guess, is a better way of saying it. This is where you can definitely add a little bit more of the edge highlighting, just simply because you want this detail to really pop out and be visible. We are going to be adding a little bit more color with the lenses and things like that to him, but you want to make sure that you are definitely accentuating whatever detail he has with this lighting, because he has these 3 little rivets on his forehead, which you can definitely pop out with that edge highlight color. And then you can get these little vents, do the little semicircle there, in there, and do a little line on the top, just to make sure.
Your dice are so random. They're like, oh, he's very dead.
Yeah, cool.
So reconstruct.
So yeah, as we're going on this, just popping out what detail we can. His carapace on the side definitely needs to get an edge highlight, because he's got these kind of cool Raven Guard pec plates that you definitely want to showcase. And later, so he's got a bunch of Raven skulls on them, and so I blocked in all the wings with the blue-black, and I'm going to come in and do all the skulls with the traditional like bone color with them. And once again, that's another way to add a little bit more color and tone to the army. Or not to the army, to the figure, excuse me. without overdoing it. Like, I'm not looking to do big dramatic colors on this guy. Big dramatic tones, yes. Contrast between the white and the black. It's definitely what I'm looking for. But yeah. This process per model, especially on these, like, these Death Guard models have a bunch of detail on them, so it's something that can take a fair bit. But generally on a unit of non-character Marines, it definitely does not take this long. It's pretty easy just to select a couple of good edge highlights, usually on the kneecaps, the arms to pop them out, and the helmet like we're talking, and the shoulders as well, and the backpacks. But you can just do a couple, pop out those major details, and call it a day on those guys. You definitely don't need to put as much effort into non-characters. We have Rob Bristow in the store right now updating the campaign stuff. So if you guys are doing the Fate of Connor, it's getting pretty exciting. Unless you're playing Chaos, then it's probably not as exciting. So one of the things I'm thinking about is he's got these like ribbed feet, and I'm thinking about doing that ribbing white. I wanted to draw a little bit more attention to them because they're clawed. They look really cool. And two, just, you know, adding more visual differentiation in the model. So I'm gonna go ahead and start blocking that in. I have a nice thin down gray blue. It's Fenrisian blue or rust gray? Rust gray. Rust gray, thinned a fair bit. So this is one of those famous too thin coats thing. Definitely makes the paint spread a lot easier if you thin it down.
It's time to go home. You gotta have home with dinner. Although in all fairness, no, you gotta go home.
So yeah, first one blocked in. Wait for it to dry, and then we can come in and do the second coat to really pull it together. And while we're waiting for the dry, I'll move over to the biker to do some edge highlighting on that guy.
Which toolbox is yours? The two black and blue ones. I'll come grab them in a second.
Oh, yeah. Hope everyone's working on something interesting and fun. I've been doing a lot of work on outside of commissions, my Gatorman models, which hopefully I'll move over to in a little bit as soon as I get some more of this edge highlighting done. So yeah, I've been working on this biker for Death Guard. I have the whites blocked in on him as well, and I started doing some of the edge highlighting, and I want to keep doing that on this side. So once again, especially with this guy, you don't have to worry as much about the finer details on the individual model because a lot of the attention is going to be drawn to the bike. How do you weather blue? Weathering blue is so I guess weathering most colors I follow the same pattern. Blues I will usually do a thin down black wash, and I won't apply it to the whole model. I'll start applying it to the areas I want to be weathered, and I'll do a stippling effect with the brush, and that's when you just kind of like do some loose dots I usually try to find like a beat up brush to do this like stippling effect, and I'll come in and I'll do these like super messy dots in order to build the highlight back up, and that kind of gives it a weathered effect. But there's a lot of different ways to weather blue. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. If you want to leave it saturated, you're going to want to try to stay away from like black washes and such, and you're going to want to use different pigments and things like that to weather it. But there's a lot of stuff you can use. I like the pigment powders a lot. We get them by Secret Weapon, and they come in a wide variety of colors, and you can either use them in like a solution, like you can mix it in with a little bit of water or a mixing medium and apply it to the model. And it'll kind of like look like things are like rusting or debris has been like trickling down like oil and such. Or you can apply it dry and it looks like dust. And if you do it the like the black, it looks like black exhaust coming through. Or I use a lot of yellows and earth colors because I've been basing my 40K stuff on desert themed bases. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it to make it look weathered. It's just kind of depending on the overall look and how or what you want to be weathering that model. Whether it's water damage, just pure age, if it's been fighting on a factory or something like that. There's a lot of different ways that you can make it look weathered and believable with whatever basing techniques you have going for the model. I might come in and paint the screen on the bike after this because I feel like that's pretty integral to pulling this model together. So I'm a lot further on the edge highlighting.
I enjoyed the time I was staying home.
One hit that was boosted, and 5 hits that were not boosted. So it's dice off.
So yeah.
16, so that was dice off 3. So it should have been like 7.5.
Yeah, so desert, you probably want to pick up a series of light tans and yellows to almost like khaki colors for the desert. And that's, you definitely apply dry. Battle damage, I usually do the hairspray technique, in which you will paint the undercoat of the model, like normally like metallic or like a dark gray or black or whatever. Hit the model with hairspray, come back, paint the normal layer over it, and then once that's done, hit it with isopropyl alcohol in the areas that you want to start weathering, and you can basically start chipping away that layer paint over the base, so that gray or metal will just like pop right through. And that's a good way to like get a kind of cool battle damage. I've done that on like a lot of War Machine warjacks and things like that. It's a really neat way to make a believable battle damage for the models. So he's got this helmet on the back of his bike right here. I'm going to do some edge highlighting on it.
Double ones. Wow, that's really bad. But it's alright, I got the spray. Double ones. Oh my god.
So a lot of the edge highlighting is... Yeah, John, if you want to at some point, we can schedule a stream to do some like weathering or something like that. Show people a cool way to do stuff for their army. It's definitely something I have to set up in advance because like going through the steps, I'll just need some setup and time. But maybe I'll buy some warjacks, or I'll do it on someone's dreadnoughts or something like that.
Yeah, so it's 136 for double ones, and then double ones twice in a row is like 1 in 1,000 or something. So Virus was like,
I do need to start getting painting for DragonCon coming up. finishing up my demo armies
But that wasn't
so people can
what it
have
was.
some
I took
fun.
2 turns. Nice half. Nice, yeah.
Moving right along. This guy.
Thanks for like, that's a, wow, that was really clever what you did there. Fuck you.
Really good idea you had right there. Matt has a good one where he got like 3 jacks.
So yeah.
Heavy jack.
And we're going to go back to this final guy. Excuse me. Actually, we're going to go back to the Raven Guard guy. Remember, if you're not painting your nails while working on these guys, you're not following my methods completely. So we're going to go back and kind of finish up doing the light blue on the tips of the feet, just so that's all blocked in, so we can come back in with some whites later on and start layering it up.
Rihanna's the guy that just qualified for Masters in Big Con. He was so much fun to play against, but we were laughing our ass off because like
So yeah, all right. Now to the last Death Watch guy. I've been doing 3 at a time for this particular commission. One, I'm not taking on too much, not taking away from this guy's army all that much, but the second is also I don't want to overwhelm myself.
He's like, I'm doing good, guys.
I do good.
Hulk smash.
No, please. Gentle.
No, Hulk not gentle.
But yeah, this guy shouldn't take too long. I started on him first, so I've gotten a majority of it already knocked out. But while I'm here, I'm always open to suggestions for things to cover in stream. I'm always open to having people on if they wanted to do a segment with me or talk about how they like painting a particular method or style. I had Chris Miller reach out to me today saying that he would like to come on stream to kind of show how to do gem effects. And for those of you who haven't or don't know, Chris has just been featured on Games Workshop's website for his Harlequins. So if you go to Games Workshop and you look up Harlequins, you can see some of Chris's models, and they look absolutely fantastic. So yeah, we're just going to keep working on these guys.
Fiona's feat is if you are in her control, you are -1 die to hit and damage. Like any attack, spell, range, whatever. It's really like it's pretty much impossible to go in on her feet and get all your material 1 dice to hit. If they hit with 1 dice, they boosted or 2 dice to help. So it's a problem. Also, it's impossible to assassinate. Chick's like defense 17. Like she's hard to kill. So what does you know what? I don't think you'll be safe. This is she's like I'm drunk. She's able to get there. She's rolling thunders to get there. And rolling thunder attacks. It's like unboosted 10. Got it.
I think it's like a Jeremy, give it a shot.
You rolled like a plus 15 for a restriction. Like how? She's like, oh, just cut her in half. That stuff is good.
So yeah, working on these guys doing edge highlighting. I am getting super focused, so sorry if I
Everything was dead. Like everything around her.
stop talking. Hope everything's staying in focus for you guys.
Why you stand there? Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
So,
alright, cool.
John's playing Grass is in a cloud on a hill with 1 transfer.
So, with those guys done getting edge highlighting, I'm going to probably move on over to my Wrestler and start doing edge highlighting on the scales. And you can kind of see on the elbow where I started. And I started at a super bright, and I'm going to start kind of working in a more duller tone on the other scales just to kind of balance it out and make it not so overwhelming. But I've also done it on the nose to bring out prominence on it. Basically give it some lighting effects and all that sort of business. But yeah, I'm going to be working on this guy, doing some edge highlighting on him. I'll be using two of P3's new paints, Bog Moss and Sickly Skin. These are both kind of muted to saturated. Those are same thing for same more. Anyways, so both these are kind of muted colors and really good for edge highlighting the base tone that I've done. So I'm coming back in, and what I'm doing is I'm going to start kind of weakening the super bright edge highlight. I did because I think it was just too bright, and I'm just going to kind of start picking up some other scales. And so this is one of those ones where I'm going to be trying to follow where the light's going to be hitting this guy. So I'm only going to be facing the most, or doing it on the most upward lines, except at the top of his scales, in which I need to do more of the side, or the front and the back, than necessarily the sides.
The kangaroo was like, I guess I'll run 4 inches. It's really bad. So having taken the trump where you could just gain the spell was very good.
Boulders!
So yeah, doing edge highlighting on this sort of guy, it's not really necessary. Like, I like doing it because it kind of puts another level of finish on him, which I appreciate. But you know, especially if you're trying to get to the tournament or tabletop already, it's not super necessary. I'm also working in a little bit of this Bog Moss, so these Sickly Skin leg plates down here that I started working on, just to, once again, add a little transition to it and make it not as stark. And just as an FYI, guys, we started a little bit late, so as long as we got people still watching, I'm more than happy to stay a little late and keep working with you guys. Oh, Matt, or Matthew, I'm using a Games Workshop. This would be like a small layer brush now, or detail brush. This is what I like doing most of my detail work in. It's not any like exceptional brush. It's just this one's been with me for a long time, and I'm able to keep up with it in maintenance. So I'm attached to it because it hasn't failed me yet. So yeah, I'm going to keep working on the edge highlighting on him. I'm working mainly on these leg plates that are down here. If you guys can see, I'm just kind of softening the transitions on them. So yeah, that's how it was, and now it's a little more balanced out and a little bit better blended. I did this Sickly Skin leg blend later in the evening, and I was looking to make a pretty big difference, which I did, but I definitely, upon getting some rest and coming back to the model, I didn't like how contrasty it was. So one of the things with this Bog Moss is it is slightly more yellow than the base coat that I've done, and it's also getting really close to the top level of the dry brush that I did. So after I'm done with these leg plates, I'm actually going to mix in some of the Sickly Skin, which is almost like a white green, to it to go back to the edge highlighting. And that's a way just basically to get a nice transition and get everything to kind of blend together and still have the edge highlighting pop out. And not to plug my favorite game, but if you guys haven't checked out War Machine and Hordes, we have a Journeyman League going on right now, and I absolutely adore the Gatorman. It's a sub-faction of the one of the mercenary groups, and they have a whole line of miniatures. So if you like Voodoo, Creole, Aztec, Gator people, it is a good time. It's a good pickup. The system's fun. The game's fun. We have a great community for it. So definitely something to pick out. And you get to paint cool models like this. This one I've modified a little bit. Just trying to get him on camera. There we go. A little bit this way. But yeah, so I've modified him. He's got these cool little ropes, little crazy jaw and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, what I have left to do on him is the base. I still want to pick out the shell a little bit more, but mainly take care of this mask. The mask I've just kind of base coated and shaded, so I haven't brought it up to the same level as the rest of this model. So yeah. I also need to do the ropes on the back by the bones, and probably do a little bit more on the bones. So yeah. Like I said, if you guys have never played War Machine and Hordes before, it's a good time to give it a try. We have a lot of fun people up here playing for it. But yeah, so it's basically doing edge highlighting. So I am working on the tail right now. And always realize you're going to make mistakes, like jamming a whole bunch of paint on the tail as I try to bring it up to the camera. But the paint didn't set, so it was really easy to clean off and take care of.
There you go. Now the thing is, it drives me real fast.
So yeah, if you guys are working on something, post pictures in the comments. Do whatever. I'm watching. We're trying to.
He's always watching.
I am always watching. There's Jesse. One day we'll get him on stream.
But that day is not today.
It's got like, they had like las guns. Oh, I've seen some where they roll.
right here. There's just like 30 las cannons on each side. So this looks like that hurts my soul. Like I still like look at that and go.
So yeah, if you guys ever want, like some of the tricks that I've done, especially for if I'm trying to do like a higher quality model, is set up, prime your model, or leave it gray. Leaving it gray actually might be a better way to do it, especially if you're just priming straight black or white. But basically prime it and then hit it with a light, like put a strong light on it and try to cut the rest of the lights out. Take a photo of it, and then it should give you a good idea of how to paint the highlights on it from a particular direction. I like that technique a lot, just simply because it's a way to give me some directional highlighting to make the model look a little bit more believable, and also kind of show me how much work I need to put in for particular highlights. I have a tendency to overwork a lot of areas if I'm left alone to my devices, because I'll just assume that I need to put more effort in. So it's a good idea to kind of get a visual plan of your highlights and such. So yeah, set this guy down here. I'm going to mix some of that Bollock Moss and Sickly Skin together. And it'll be pretty much a 1-for-1. These new colors from Private Duke Press are really cool. They added in a lot of colors that I was kind of wishing for. An off orange, the meaty ochre, and then some new colors for the greens. They have some of the best greens. I'm not sure if you guys use Necrotite green, but if you need anything green and glowy, that's the one that you guys use.
I'm more curious if
So mixing this together, it's Sickly Skin and mediocre. And this should hopefully be a good edge highlight color for those mid-tone areas that I have on the model. Looking at it right now, it's still looking a little too thick. So I'm going to keep mixing with it, try to get it thinned down, try to get a good even mix to it. Normally on a palette this would be a little easier, but since I'm here at the store, I use these souffle cups. So yeah, when you pull the paint on the side of the cup, you know if it's thin enough, if it's actually like dripping down and all that. And if it goes too quickly, then it might be a little too thin, unless you're glazing or washing or inking. But yeah, so this is going to be hopefully a good color for edge highlighting this guy.
He's more boxing. I need a player that goes like this shape like this.
And one of the nice things is if you do thin your paint down properly, it makes it somewhat transparent. So as you're doing this, you don't have to worry as much about the color being too bright or being too much for the color that you originally picked. Because what it'll do is it'll just dry slightly above the base colors. So I'm kind of coming back here and knocking down the white, especially on the elbow. It looked really good, but it was a little too stark, too much for the rest of the model. So knocking it down, knowing when to knock it down is a pretty good knowledge base to have. So yeah, and also hi Matt. It's nice of you to stop by. So once again, while doing edge highlighting, you just want to drag a little bit. Like you just need a little bit of pressure on the model. If you put too much pressure down, you're going to wreck the whole thing. It's going to smudge or do a weird bend in it. So just be patient. What's the phrase? Rome wasn't built in a day. Minis won't. The minis aren't going anywhere unless you have to go to a tournament, and that might be an issue. So one of the things I've been doing while painting my guys is I've been using a semi-gloss sealant on them. It keeps the layers pretty well protected in between steps, but what it also does is it helps washes kind of move more freely into cracks and crevices, and then it lets you kind of clean up mistakes a little bit better too. So it's something to consider. Now, paints will be a little bit more tricky to apply. Paints will flow more freely over the model, so it kind of just depends on your techniques and all that, but it's something to consider or think about when you're planning your next project. And do try to plan ahead. It's been one of the things that I've had to teach myself. Sometimes I'll just jump into a model and kind of wing it, but the work is always much stronger if I take the time to think about the paints I'm going to need, the colors I want to do, the effect I want to accomplish. And it's not like a long list, but having a game plan before you get started will reduce frustration and probably keep you painting longer, which, I mean, in the end, I think is what we all want, right? Like, we all want to make sure that we have a nice, fully painted army. And the last thing that we want is to get burnt out on painting random stuff that we end up not having a clear idea for and get very frustrated with. So yeah, I'm really kind of excited to see how this guy comes out. He's coming along together well. There's a lot of areas on him that I'm doing right now that are coming out a lot better than I thought they were going to. And then there's some areas where I need to put some more work. I was a little sloppy with a couple of steps, and there's a lot of cleanup work that I need to come back and do for the skins and the back scoots for this guy. But, you know, going back and cleaning something up is not a problem because I know exactly what I need to do to fix them. Also, if you guys are forgetful about formulas that you use to mix together, write it down. We're already a bunch of nerds. There's no reason not to take nerdiness one step further and have a little journal of paint colors and things like that, techniques that you use to get models done in the effect that you want. So I will say edge highlighting is a little more difficult on scales, and that's basically just due to the fact that these scales aren't raised as much. They're not as sharp as like a vehicle edge. But yeah, it is something to keep up with and to think about and to do as you guys are working, is recognize that the technique will be applied slightly differently or change a little bit based on the model you're working on. So I'm coming back and popping up the little scales that are on his so-called lips that are protecting the teeth, and it's a way to make that jaw look a little bit more threatening. I'm kind of debating right now to put some blood effects in the jaw after I'm done with this, and I don't know, it might be a little overkill, but you know, he is a scary gator man, so but yeah, so this is multiple steps. I might also come back and brighten up the shell. It looks really cool. It's a nice weathered orange, and it contrasts with the blue feathers a lot, but I might want it to be a little bit brighter. Yeah. So yeah, it's things to think about as you're working, recognizing that maybe things won't always be 100% the way that you think or that you want, and being flexible and being adaptive is one of those things. As long as you remember that you're kind of in control of how your models turn out. And you'll be good. So yeah, coming in, painting the top of the scales, getting these guys done. So it's about 5:15. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the stream up. I know we have a lot of guys watching, but I think our cameraman needs to head out pretty soon. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. And if you guys have anything that you guys want to watch or see, just let me know. Put it in the comments. Talk to me about it. I'm more than happy to go over whatever technique. I have more models than I know what to do with, and they can all be painted with different techniques and style. So until then, you guys have a good day. I'm gonna wave. All right, goodbye, guys.